To what extent have colonial borders impacted regional integration in the continent? Just how important is the Home Affairs Department's Green Paper on international migration? What prompted the refurbishment of the Marabastad Refugee Reception Office? And what triggered the recent violent protests in Rosettenville and Pretoria West? What time is it? It's question time. Good afternoon. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Simpiwe Ngongwane, standing in for Mpotsedu. Now, the Refugee Center in Marabastad, Pretoria, has been famous for all the wrong reasons. The Immigration Office has become notorious for alleged corruption, long queues, as well as criminal syndicates. Now, last week, President Jacob Zuma, with a delegation from the Home Affairs Department, opened the revamped facility. It has been renamed the Desmond Tutu Refugee Reception Center. Now, the center has a state-of-the-art equipment, including an automated booking system and paperless processes. Now, the opening of the refurbished facility comes in the wake of recent violent attacks in Rosettenville and Pretoria West. Allegations of criminal activities in businesses owned by some foreign nationals have been bandied about. We are live, therefore you can call us and air your views on the following numbers: 089 110 4210, or tweet us your comments. Our Twitter handle is @QuestionTime24. Now, my guests this afternoon are Maihlome Chwete, who is the spokesperson of the Department of Home Affairs. He's joining us from our Pretoria studios. We're also expecting to be joined by Mark Bafu, who is the chairperson at the Africa Diaspora Forum. He'll be joining us anytime from now. Very good afternoon to you, Maihlome. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon and thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your watchers too.
All right, now the buzzword, Maihlome, these days is the refugee crisis that's currently rocking South Africa. And South Africa last articulated policy on international migration 17 years ago with the 1999 white paper. But then till today, no comprehensive review of policy we have seen to date. Now, this has exacerbated the migrant crisis, which in some instances led to xenophobic attacks. Now, surely your department isn't doing enough to protect foreign nationals in the country. Am I right or wrong?
Well, the two issues you're raising are not as related as you're presenting them. So you are acknowledging that there hasn't been much done in 17 years, and at the same time you're saying that our department isn't doing enough. So the fact that we have now instituted a review of our migration policy speaks to the fact of us doing something about outdated migration policy. It's a huge step forward and a huge undertaking that has been directed by our Minister of Home Affairs, and there are a lot of exciting and fresh ideas that are being put on the table. This is a huge step forward, as I'm saying, so you can't say the Department of Home Affairs hasn't done enough. Now, the migration crisis is not exclusive to South Africa. It's happening across the globe. We have seen it play itself out in more tragic ways across the Mediterranean Sea and across other parts of the world. And it's a highly contentious issue. So I encourage people to try focus on the substantive issues. So if you say Home Affairs needs to do something about migration, you need to take into cognizance that Home Affairs has pushed for a review of the migration policy. You need to take into cognizance that Home Affairs has revamped its main refugee reception area, which was called Marabastad, but now is called the Desmond Tutu Refugee Reception Center. You need to also take into cognizance some of the things the Department of Home Affairs has done since the initial wave of xenophobic attacks, amongst others, including the documentation of Zimbabwean nationals, which was a big undertaking, and the documentation of Lesotho nationals. So all of these issues I'm mentioning are interventions that the department is taking. Can we do more? Absolutely, we want to do more, and we are appealing to our colleagues at large for us to assist us with issues of resources so that we can better respond to some of the issues that are being raised by the South African public.
Now, coming back to the safety of foreign nationals trading in South Africa, now our competitiveness and status as a leading destination investment in Africa is, of course, enhanced by the security and the stability of the international and domestic actors that they rely on. But then, not the same can be said about the foreign nationals trading here. They've been quite vocal about their safety being compromised trading in South Africa.
Again, you have to speak quite specifically, because there are a number of foreign investors that you would not regard in this question of being unsafe in our communities. A lot of business investors that come to South Africa do not have the problems that smaller businesses are having who are situated in communities. So what you're speaking about when you say...
Well, I'm talking specifically about the small business owners.
People don't...
Yeah, I'm talking specifically about the small business owners whose safety has been compromised.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. Yeah, you're speaking to specifically spaza shops and small businesses that are in communities. And it's important for us not to take what happens in some instances in some community and generalize it across the bar. I and the Department of Home Affairs have been in communication with a number of community leaders who have been protecting those small businesses, who understand the importance of those small businesses in their communities. So there are instances where when there's issues of violence, some of the shops that are targeted are foreign national-owned shops, but it's also important to note that a majority of them that exist in our communities are accepted, integrated, and in many cases even protected by our communities. So they do enjoy the protection of the South African government.
All right, just hold your thought, Maishlome. They will certainly continue that discussion after the break. All right, we'll take a short break now, and a reminder that you can call us and air your views on the following numbers: 089 110 4210. And our other guest, Mr. Mark Bafu, who is the chairperson of the Africa Diaspora Forum, is definitely in the building, and he will join us shortly after the break. This is Question Time. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, my guests are Mark Bafu, the chairperson at the African Diaspora Forum, and joining us from my Hatfield studio is Maishlome Chwete. But then before we cross over to Mr. Chwete, I would like to welcome you, Mr. Bafu. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me to
All right. Now, the buzzword these days is the issue of the torching of houses in Rosettenville and Pretoria West, and particularly affecting the foreign nationals. So, what exactly do you think triggered that violence?
Look, we fully understand the concern of the communities. There are few elements in our communities who are perpetrating crime, and the community's right to voice out. The only concern also, equally, is that it seems like the community is taking the law into the hand, and that's the only thing which is not well viewed by the African Diaspora Forum. We would like people to voice out, but we want people to also remember that we have structures which are existing, the law enforcement agents which are existing to be used when they want to report crime. One concern is that when they go to the police doesn't do anything or don't do anything. Then we're encouraging them to escalate their concern to the next level. really we know that there are some elements in the police who might be involved in the same corruption as the people that they are identifying in the community.
How so? How are the police involved in such corruption?
Well, that's what the community is saying, is because the police doesn't do anything, it's because the police itself is involved in the corruption. That's the main reason we're taking the law into our hands. That's what people are saying.
I'll certainly take you up on that remark, that which is made, that police are involved in this corruption. But then we have Aurelie from Pretoria in the line. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. Aurelie, can you hear me? Unfortunately, we seem to have lost Aurelie, but we hope to re-establish connection with him. Are you still there, Mr. Aurelie? All right. Mr. Bakfo, you just said police are involved in the corruption. How so? And please delve deeper into that.
As I've mentioned earlier, that the clear statement that the community itself is making, and that the main reason for them going burning houses is because the police doesn't act, and there's some police officers involved in the same corruption. So what we are saying is that we're concerned that the few migrants who are involved in these criminal activities are labeled as if the whole migrant community is involved in crime, which is not correct. There are so many migrants, and the majority of migrants who are here want to make a decent life, or an honest life. And that's why I want to use this opportunity to say thank you to all the South Africans who understood that labeling migrants as criminals doesn't help. Instead, there are some challenges on the ground. People who cannot...
So Johannesburg Mayor Herman Mashaba certainly painted every immigrant in the country with the same brush. And do you think that helped start these attacks?
Well, again, we want to remind the mayor that he has the police with him. And he work, I think, one phone away from the police. And whenever you need to call the police, I mean, whenever you see a criminal, you don't go as the mayor and call for a public meeting, but you call the police and you give a physical address. The brothels that he's talking about mean that they gave you a physical address for those brothels. Call the police and arrest the criminal that you know. But instead, you call a public meeting and inciting violence, and that's what we didn't understand with the mayor.
All right, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. We've got Henry on the line. A very good afternoon to you, Henry. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello.
Good afternoon. What's on your mind, sir?
Yes, you're speaking to Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
welcome.
I'm calling from Toffontein.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Yeah, very close to Rossittenville, where all these things happen. I've lived in Rossittenville before. The problem in Rossittenville, the way I see it, is not everybody that is involved in crime. But the problem is that the way Mayor handled the whole thing, it made the people think that people have taken over, Nigerians have taken over Rossittenville from South Africans. So for the non-educated people, they would think maybe these houses are supposed to belong to us. But these houses are bonded from the bank. The insurance are going to fix those damages. You understand? If there are crime in the community, which I don't support any crime, I've never been involved in crime, but they need to handle these things with care, because it can end up one day somebody will be passing, they will stab him to death, and when you ask questions, they will say, yeah, he's selling drugs. Meanwhile, they never found any evidence. There is no evidence proving what they are doing there.
So because basically, Andrew, all you're saying is that not every immigrant is a criminal.
Not every Nigerian living in Rossittenville is a criminal. If you can check those houses where they burn, if they think those people living there are criminals, we also have criminals in Nigeria. We also battle criminals in Nigeria, but we don't kill people like going and paint everybody like Malians living in Nigeria, they are all criminals. If you want to attack criminal, you attack criminal straight.
All right.
Now, even the car parked outside was burned. The car outside was burned. That car parked outside there, how are they sure that guy who owns that car is a criminal?
All right, Henry, thank you so much for your time. Hey, thanks for your call. Now, Maishloma, back to you in Pretoria. The caller basically is summarizing what Mr. Bafo has said, that not every immigrant in the country is a criminal. So do you think these attacks were sparked by Herman Mashaba's comments?
Look, I don't know. I don't have any scientific proof that this comes from Mayor Mashaba. Our response in 2015, when the media was attributing some of the violence to some comments made by King Zwelithini, was that we should also place some responsibility onto the people that engage in criminality. By that I mean the people that engage in public violence should not be absolved of their responsibility. We sometimes focus too much attention on the comments that we attribute, or let me say the actions that we attribute coming as a result of comments from leaders, and not on the actions of those people who are engaging in criminality themselves. But that being said, there is a responsibility by all public figures to be measured and to watch some of the comments that they make, because they can be misinterpreted, misconstrued by a number of people who want to carry out criminal activity. The response of government is important for them to not waste too much time into the intellectual debates of whose comments started this, but rather deal with those who are dealing or engaging in criminal activity such as public violence. And that's how the government has responded to the 2015 public violence, and this public violence right now is to arrest and take to jail any individual who engages in any criminality. That matters be looked at purely based on whether they are legal or illegal, and not whether a person is a foreign national or a South African.
All right, we've got Baswane on the line from Johannesburg. Good afternoon to you, Baswane.
How are you?
Fine, how are you? What's on your mind?
Thank you very much. Okay, I just want to check something. Especially, I want to ask Mr. Chwete. Hello?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I worked at Home Affairs as an RSDO, Refugee Data Determination Officer. But to be honest, the years that I've been there is something that the Home Affairs is not doing right. Because in the first place, when a person comes in South Africa, most of the people who come here is because of wars in their country, you understand? Because of, they must qualify to be a refugee in South Africa. But most of the people who are here are economic migrants, you understand? That is why I'm saying that there's a lot of work that has to be done by Home Affairs, because everyone who comes here, they don't qualify, and they also know. Because they just, people go back, but a lot of people are coming back. You don't even understand what is happening, because something is not right with Home Affairs. Because the only people, according to me, that I know that these are the people who qualify to be because there is wars in their country. There are few like Somalians and others, but to be honest, with Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Mozambicans, there is no order.
All right,
yes,
unfortunately, we haven't got much time there, Baswane, but then thank you so much for your call. Mr. Maishlome Chwete will certainly take you up on that. Maishlome, he's basically saying that there aren't stricter controls at the Department of Home Affairs when it comes to the regulation of migrants and immigrants in South Africa.
Yes, he's saying that we don't make enough of a distinction between economic migrants and refugees. And the current refugee amendment bill, which has been criticized by some as the Department of Home Affairs being draconian, is trying to do exactly that. We are trying to make the very clear distinction between economic migrants and genuine refugees. Now, where I disagree with the caller is when he says that there are certain nationalities that shouldn't be considered for refugee status, which is not how our constitution is designed. We are required as a country to hear the cases of each individual based on the merits, because there isn't any violence or any wars in certain countries doesn't mean one cannot be persecuted as a result of their sexual preference, their religion, or even their political views. So in as much as I agree with him that there isn't enough, in the past there wasn't enough distinction between economic migrants and genuine refugees, I don't agree that there are certain nationalities that should be completely written off as a potential refugees. The current refugee amendment bill is going to deal with the issue that he's discussing about not making the distinction between economic migrants and refugees. And another thing that the immigration or the migration policy is speaking to is the issue of low-skilled migrant workers who are trying to come into South Africa. You need to answer that question as SADC. If you don't answer that question, you're going to have a lot of economic migrants who are trying to go through your refugee system because they view it to be the easiest way to come into the country.
All right, I'm going to have to interrupt you there. We've got Lincoln on the line from Johannesburg. A very good afternoon to you, Lincoln.
Good afternoon. I just would like to contribute to the discussion there.
Yeah.
I think the government also has to take responsibility here.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people that are coming in are not necessarily accounted for, and there is a grapple of resources on the ground.
Yeah.
So the people are basically saying, we don't see an account of who should be here, who should not be here. And Statistics South Africa doesn't really give us the right numbers. So these people are, we are all consumers of services on the ground, but the numbers, the planning is not accordingly done for the whole numbering. So it goes with also the township economy as well. It has been taken over mainly by the Pakistani franchise, if I may say so.
All right, Lincoln, thank you so much for your time.
No.
All right, now, Mark, back to you now. Why is South Africa, do you think, is playing a careful balancing act when dealing with migrants here in the country?
Look, I think maybe before touching on that, I just want to make a call. And that call is a call to government to assist us. Because currently, the situation we are facing is that no one has a clue of how many migrants are in South Africa. That's the major problem. So people think that they are invaded by other people from other countries. Mm-hmm. Each and every single country of the 54 countries in Africa got borders. Why is South Africa is questioning its borders, and in our poor and small countries we don't have that challenge? South Africa should register all the migrants here. And here we are calling upon government to say, assist us. Just make a call. All illegal migrants who are in the country, say, come and register. Then you'll have a database of all the people who are in the country, and you'll allow people to be legal. If there is anyone among these people who commits crime, you can trace him. Yeah. But the current situation gives an impression that South Africa is invaded. I don't think that South Africa is more migrant than a country like Ethiopia or Ivory Coast, and you can cite them. Yeah. But the whole perception is that people feel that no, all the borders are opening, people are just walking past because the officials are also talking about the borders. Sure. So you give the impression that it's like a freeway where people just walk to another country. I'm
going to have to interrupt you there. Now, my Shome, he just led this into this discussion for me to ask what prompted the refurbishment of the Marabastad Refugee Center, and do you think it's enough to accommodate the ever-escalating number of new applicants?
Well, the refurbishments are about giving better services to clients who are going there. They are about minimizing the corruption that is happening there, and they are about administratively trying to minimize any exploitation that's happening by our Home Affairs officials and by people who are applying. They are not necessarily designed to minimize applications from outside of the country. But what we are doing in that regard is we are trying to make a very clear distinction, as I said, between economic migrants and asylum seekers who eventually become genuine refugees. We are also undertaking a number of interventions around our migration policy, which looks at accommodating lower skilled migrant labor from the SADC region.
All right.
These are the things we are doing to try alleviate some of the pressure of our asylum seeker system. But if I can just quickly respond
as always, thank you so much for time. Unfortunately, we are so tight with time. We don't have much time, unfortunately. But then thank you so much for your input and for your time in joining us this afternoon. And as well as Mr. Mark, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest, Mr. Mark, Mr. Mark Wafu, the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum, and as well as Mike Shomechred, who is the spokesperson for Home Affairs Department. And a big thank you for you at home for watching and for your contribution to this show this afternoon. I'm Simpiwe Ngwane, standing in for Mpho Zedu. Till next time then, goodbye from Johannesburg.